Hello and welcome to another broadcast of Truth Be Told with Tony and Dean, the Monday edition. And I'm Tony Sweet. We have in studio is the one and only Dean Ryan.
Well, thank you very much, Tony.
You're very welcome.
It's the Obama traffic. Obama is in town literally across the street from us. And it's like a mass exodus. Sunset Boulevard is just absolutely insane. Military helicopters everywhere, cops at every corner. And there's not a donut to be found in this town. It is completely, it's gone.
That's why you didn't bring any.
No, because I was walking here and I just moved here. And in case people want to know where I moved to.
With the address, please?
Well, Tony Sweet's been so nice to me that I now have political asylum in the UBN right. studio. So this is where my new residence
is.
They
can't find you.
No, they can't. And thank you very much. So,
anytime.
By the way, you're out of toilet paper.
Oh.
All right.
That resonates with the asylum.
I'm just saying.
Well, and we also have in studio with us the one and only Captain Ron. How you doing, Captain?
Fantastic.
Well, Captain, let's go ahead and just touch on a few subjects. And I think you had some stuff that we have.
Hey, where's our live band?
Oh, don't worry. It's coming up.
Coming up later in the show.
There you go. It's time for the news.
Where's that sound again?
Well, here's what's going on. This week, a couple quick notes on Trump. He did the thing. He's got these 11 women now accusing him of some sort of sexual misconduct. And he just did a speech a couple days ago, and he said that as soon as the election's over, he is going to sue each and every one of them. So we'll see how that turns out. So that's kind of big news. He's going to go after those ladies. He says they're all lies, and he's going to sue them.
Well, isn't that, I mean, just to not even be the devil's advocate, but to be the devil here, isn't that what people do when people are falsely accusing you of something?
I think this is good that he's doing that because it shows that he's like he really didn't do it.
And notice how Bill Clinton's not suing anyone. He's settling.
Another good thing he did is Trump said that he also doesn't like how it was a simple phone call to a major news outlet, and these women get wall-to-wall coverage with no fact-checking whatsoever. On that hand,
I actually have to say that two of my friends are really good friends with the porn star.
Oh, is that right?
I've met her before.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Really?
How'd
you meet her?
Actually, I went to a Wicked Pictures party.
Well, this episode just changed.
Let's
go into that.
I know. Actually, I've met her. But she was really nice, and they totally believe her. But I don't know her well enough to say yes or no. So
that's interesting, though, that he's right about the fact-checking. It's just like, boom, they just put him on like nothing. Good for him.
It's true because you know that O'Keefe video and the way Anderson Cooper introduced it in the whole video from Project Veritas, which actually shows the raw footage of the Clinton campaign, talking about paying off the agitators to start riots.
Right.
The way they introduced it is discredited film journalist O'Keefe.
Discredited,
and then they don't explain how is it discredited, and then they go, supposedly this was said. Supposedly.
We have it on video.
Right.
My God. I mean, who's watching CNN now besides, people's grandparents? And Tony. Well, and Tony.
Well, I fall asleep to
Get your news here. Truth be told, right?
It is soothing.
Yeah.
Another thing Trump did was he made these jokes about, now he's joking about the election being rigged. He said that he was in Cleveland, and he said maybe they're going to vote for Trump. In that case, that's okay. Let's forget it. Let's just let it go on. So,
well, he's got a candy sense.
He always goes back to that. Yeah. Another WikiLeaks release was the Clinton aides scrambling to figure out who the Energizer Bunny was. Do you see this one?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the. I keep saying That's one of the.
Stop it.
Clinton supposed sexual encounter.
You mean it's not that pink rabbit with the bass drum?
It's not.
Okay. All right.
So apparently that went on a couple years ago.
Now I'm saying All right.
Now the really big news this week was, you guys see what happened? How the not the internet, but a big part of the internet shut down.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Twitter,
Netflix,
literally Twitter, PayPal, Spotify.
All of them.
Netflix was down, and Tony, how did you survive at home?
Couldn't.
I mean, my God.
I beat my head against the wall for an hour.
And do you know how? Okay, so there's a cyber attack that shut down many websites.
Did they ever figure out what it was or who did it?
Kind of. Do you know what caused? You know how they did it?
Huh.
Do you know about this? Mostly, believe it or not, they created this malware or whatever, and what it did was it went into baby monitors and DVRs. 80% of them was DVRs, and what it is DVRs. When you buy a DVR, apparently when you set it up, it has like standard code 1234
Right.
or 0000. Well, 9 out of 10 people don't bother changing the password on their DVR because who cares?
Right.
So they wrote the malware to infect the DVR to get into your network and then go into your computer. Same with the baby monitors.
Well, see, I find this very interesting, Tony, because when this attack happened, and by the way, I think it is self-inflicted, it happened on the same day the big WikiLeaks dump, because it's been progressively getting more damning the closer we get to the election.
It's funny you bring that up, Dean.
Well,
Da-da-da.
I'm one for timing.
Okay, so they think the 80% is, they call it botnets.
Mhm.
80% of them were these networked DVRs. They think it's been resolved, but a lot of people think it's from WikiLeaks. They think that the people behind WikiLeaks do this, that are behind this.
The malware?
Yeah.
And who's saying that? Is that Anderson Cooper again?
I think it's.
You know, Tony, I'm going to slap that guy right in the mouth. I'm getting sick of it.
They sent out a tweet that said
Slap
Mr.
you
Assange
back.
is still alive and WikiLeaks is still publishing. We are asking his supporters to please stop taking down the U.S. internet. You've proved your point.
But here's my thought about this. Our government is supposed to be high in the technology.
Correct.
How are these people even getting in? It's almost like they have a key every single time. But you know what I'm saying? It has
It's
to. It
insane.
feels like it's almost like it's intentional.
Let me guess. Russia did it?
Well,
This
one
one?
of the things is they think it could be Russia. But another one is they think it's the WikiLeaks supporters. And he started off as a hacker. Wasn't Assange a hacker? That's how he got started?
Tony, let me just correct me if I'm wrong here. So when something bad, when a hack happens, it was Russia, now WikiLeaks, all these boogeymen. When the Sony hack happened, it was North Korea. What's the point? It just doesn't make sense. Like you said, it's the greatest security apparatus.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to
And
me.
it's always North Korea or Russia. You know what I'm saying? Anyways.
Well, that's how Assange got started, right? He was a hacker. That's what.
Are you? I mean,
No, that's what I've read. Have you not read that?
I've not read it.
That's
but
what I
it
read.
may-
I heard it.
What
was
do I know?
I thought he was a student.
So, then there's been all this stuff about Julian Assange. That's the other big story we should talk about real quick. I mean, he's got all these things. We should bring our guest on to talk about these things. But he's got things about Obama working with ISIS. There's a new leak about Obama knowing they were going to get him in before the election, that there's a correspondence between him and Bush.
Yes,
saying
before the
that
election, right?
They're getting him set up to go
They
in
transitioned him in.
before the election was over.
Of 08, yes. Henry Paulson was already talking to him. There was already being groomed and already decided.
That's
Yeah, I did hear that.
pretty scary
And
stuff.
I'm pissed off because I'm like, I was voting for Hillary and she was going to win the whole time. Now that is just called satire, all right? I don't want any letters and people calling me all
You know,
kinds of
people
names.
on
I kn-
YouTube
they
and all
always-
these people are
They're
going to
always
be.
attacking me in the videos. I know. It's something I wear or
Well,
whatever.
look at you.
The last thing I'll say about Assange is he's calling out to Obama to stop the witch hunt for him, and they shut down his access to the internet. He's staying at the Ecuadorian. What do you call that?
Marriott. Embassy.
At the consulate, the
Sorry,
embassy, yes.
It looks the same.
And so they cut off his access to the internet, and they said their official statement was the government of Ecuador represents the principle of non-intervention in the internal affairs of other states. It doesn't interfere with external electoral process and does not favor any particular candidate.
Well,
That's what they say officially.
let me just stop you right there because the president of Ecuador is he's openly stated he's supporting Hillary Clinton.
Well, but this is the government's official position.
Well, it's funny how it is. That's what it is now.
But that's what I thought they invaded this compound, this embassy. Did they not?
There's been attempts on, from what I read, and there's so
But
many.
what stopped them?
There's so many reports. It's hard to.
Yeah,
filter.
I don't know what's
I mean,
what anymore. I mean, this is the most confusing. If you try to follow this online, it's insane. It goes all over the place.
Right.
So
WikiLeaks is alleging that despite that official stance, that the U.S. and in particular John Kerry, the Secretary of State, are pushing them to cut him off from doing these WikiLeaks, which is obviously damaging Clinton.
Well, he threatened grave consequences.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So why don't we bring Jim Fetzer on and see if the professor has anything to say about that?
All right,
because
Dean.
he'll know a lot more about it than we do.
Give a good
welcoming
introduction.
back to the show, and it's and for the audience, Professor James Fetzer is this election season, he's had his eye on the ball and all these different angles, and it's so important that we get this information out because we are the alternative media. And so we want to welcome back no stranger to the show, Mr. Jim Fetzer. Jim, are you there?
Hey, real pleasure. Yeah, to be with you guys again. I think indeed John Kerry put heavy pressure on Ecuador to cut off Julian Assange internet access. He's dumping more and more stuff that's increasingly devastating to the Clinton campaign. One, by the way, recent showed that they planned in May to unleash this string of women who had claimed that Trump had groped them and tried to kiss them on the lips. So it's anomalous because after you hear the conversation with Billy Bush, first cousin to W, you think, this is Trump's style. But his denials appear to be well-founded. It's just that he makes a colossal mistake by even talking about it when he's giving a marvelous speech, really very substantive about the issues, as he gave at Gettysburg, and then talks about suing the women because the media, which is so massively hostile, is going to pick up on the one thing he says that'll make a headline and ignore the rest. So I think that's the mistake.
Jim, I want to talk about that. It seems to me, just as an objective voice in the wilderness, that this is almost like a smokescreen to let's talk about what Trump said on the tape and if he touched a flight attendant on the shoulder. When we are on the brink of war here in a World War III scenario, and this is getting really serious, and people that are really watching the news and paying attention, you have Russia's warships lined up, I believe, near the Baltic Sea, and I could be wrong, but we are on the brink of World War III, and we haven't seen anything like this since the Cold War. I mean, are we going to see a wag the dog the closer we get to November 8th election? Are we going to see more smoke screens? I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, you're 100% right about the powder keg that the Middle East has become. The Russians have brought their northern fleet and part of their Baltic fleet down to Syria. This is very serious stuff. We had the chairman of the Joint Chiefs explain to Congress that if they were to implement Hillary Clinton's proposal for a no-fly zone, that we would be at war with Russia. And I can assure you that won't work out happily for anyone. So, they're doing this massive destruction from the very serious issues, many of which are part of Hillary Clinton's legacy by, her campaign has run a brilliant strategy of focusing on the Donald and finding just anything they could attack. And it's all this very superficial stuff about basically comes down to his saying mean things or lewd things or inappropriate things, where she's been committing actions that have led to the slaughter of Libya, for example, probably the most progressive nation on the face of the earth, to transfer of all these weapons from Libya to the jihadists in Syria, where Chris Stevens, the ambassador at Benghazi, was trying to halt the transfer of Stinger missiles because he was worried they'd be used to shoot down civilian aircraft. If people knew the truth about Hillary Clinton, it's an absolute horror story. And, I don't think anyone would take her seriously as a candidate. So they are doing the politics as a distraction and doing it very, very well.
Tony, isn't that true? I mean, but at the same time, it's now coming out that Donald Trump called one of his employees a jerk face. So, I mean, isn't that just disqualifying right there?
That's bad language.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm a little insulted myself. So, but Tony, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we see smoke screens all the time. It's just kind of weird how that is. I mean, whether you like or hate the man, this country is on the brink of war, and I can feel it on the streets. Just walking with the security apparatus. I mean, I don't feel it with the populace, especially here in Hollywood. I mean, people don't even know what day it is, but I can smell, the winds of war.
Well, I definitely can feel the heaviness in the atmosphere towards, I think just the election as a whole.
Oh, absolutely.
That's very electric.
Yeah, you can totally feel people's personalities have changed, friendships have changed. So
and they're combative. If you don't like the guy,
combative.
people are digging in.
Yeah, I've seen, people combat before in elections, but this one on Facebook, unfriend me, don't talk to me ever again. You're like, wow.
Me and Tony
this is what America's all
what
about.
I've heard too. A lot of people
about
are
being able to express our opinion.
Me and Tony are no longer friends anymore.
No,
it's amazing.
Don't look at me.
But Jim, real quick, and I know the guys have some questions. this is important. I want to get to this right away because before we get into anything else, over the past few days, you sent me a leaked memorandum from the Clinton Foundation, and I really want to talk about that because in this leaked memorandum, it states, among many other things, but it specifically states the detriment to the Clinton campaign is the alternative media. It is the greatest enemy to her campaign. Can you talk to the audience about this memorandum?
Just let me add one note before we turn there, because it is a fascinating development. We have other WikiLeaks that say that the Hillary Clinton's campaign team was advised to link Russian President Vladimir Putin to Donald Trump. All this stuff about Russia is ludicrous. Turns out John Podesta has very deep ties to Russian businesses and oligarchs, and that Hillary was instrumental as Secretary of State in arranging for Russia to buy 20% of our uranium resources here in the United States to benefit the Clinton Foundation. I mean, what kind of a Secretary of State would give away, a vital national security resource like uranium in order to enrich herself? Well, that's the candidate you have in Hillary Clinton.
Right.
Well, I want to ask this. Since Obama, this is his pretty much legacy. Do you think Obama had to sign off on this before Hillary could make that deal, or no?
Well, that's an interesting question. I do think Obama has been deeply involved in a lot of very dirty business, and that it's only gradually emerging. I mean, look at the absurdity of his situation right now. He gave this very impactful speech about that Trump should stop whining because it's not possible to rig the election. At the same time, he's saying in relation to the mainstream media, we know with certainty that Russia is trying to rig our election. Well, either it's not possible or it is possible. And if it's possible, then the Donald has a point. And even Obama has admitted and claimed that Russia's doing it, which I don't believe, by the way, for a millisecond. This whole idea of appealing to Russia is simply pathetic. It's junior high school level politics. But too many Americans are gullible enough that they believe what they hear as long as they're hearing the same thing from all the networks. And because the networks are orchestrated, they get their news from two principal sources, the Associated Press and Reuters. The Associated Press is owned by Reuters. Reuters, in turn, is owned by the Rothschilds. And the Rothschilds have assured Hillary that they're going to make sure she becomes the Queen of America.
Well, all I remember, and it reminds me a lot back when Bush was coming up for re-election, and I'm sure you both remember this, after 9/11, every time something happened, red alert, red alert, red alert, and then after the election, it went away.
I know. Those were the good
That's
orders.
right. That's right. Purely manipulative. Superficial, shallow, but effective with a certain percentage of the population.
Jim, real quick, I want to get back to this leaked memorandum because I think it's so important.
Group.
Right. I want you to talk about how the enemy, they state, is the alternative media, and then how they took a real poll. They hired this like a military firm that took a poll of the women, and then I want to talk about how they're bringing up Project Bluebeam. And if people don't know what that is, please look it up while watching this.
Well, this is an absolutely fascinating development. It was released by Anonymous. It appears to be a strategy document from the team that is advising Hillary, and that her situation is in such a deplorable state that they're describing this as their salvage program, that she has crashed to a 12% favorable rating and that she's losing, based upon their polling, which is real rather than fabricated, 19 to 77 nationally, so that they've got to take some drastic steps in order to alter the situation, to try to salvage it. This is a very serious document. There were opportunities for officials of this company to deny it, which they did not do. And I believe, in fact, that it actually is authentic. And just to tell you how deep they were into this, they were trying to find out how seriously committed were Trump supporters. They found they were overwhelmingly more serious and dedicated to Trump than were Hillary supporters, for example. And in fact, they did a poll then as to what could possibly keep them from going to vote for Trump. And they got a 38% response that it would be an attack by extraterrestrials. I mean, that sounds so ludicrous. But get this, with a political logic, they decided, therefore, the best way to benefit Hillary is to plan in relation to the actual voting days an extraterrestrial attack that would be simulated using modern technology. I mean, Look, you'd think this was so absurd that you couldn't make this stuff up, but there it is in this document spelled out, and it appears to be completely serious.
Captain Ron, you get this. I know you're a
It's
big
insane.
sci-fi guy. I know you're a Trekkie at heart. What the professor's saying, and this is incredible because I've studied Project Bluebeam for many years, is they're seriously considering, and in hindsight, this is kind of why Hillary's been talking about UFO disclosure if she becomes president, and she's trying to play that crown.
It's the false flag thing,
Right? They're talking about putting a hologram in the sky of extraterrestrials, Muhammad, Jesus Christ, Buddha, and I don't know, Jerry Garcia, one of those gods, and to scare the people, scare the hell out of them, and then cancel the elections. Am I right on that, Jim?
Yeah, well, here's what they're talking about. It's called fire sign. The fire sign scenario is that of an invading extraterrestrial force of nearly incomprehensible scale. Massive floating cities descending, God-sized walkers among the clouds with terrifying weapons, wheels of fire and eyes and so forth.
Oh my
This
God.
phenomenon, when activated, will bring electoral and social systems to a halt in affected areas, will permit a narrative where the president of the United States is able to call a halt to the invasion and then hand over the torch to Clinton, providing a basic continuity of state. I mean, that's a scenario. They use some of this stuff in the Middle East by projecting an image of Allah and terrified a lot of Iraqi soldiers, for example. So they actually have tried this stuff out. The idea of a domestic campaign organization like this Benenson Strategy Group proposing it be done by Hillary Clinton in order to save her from defeat in a campaign, however, is so wild and so unscrupulous, is so just stunning that it's even proposed. But it appears to be their solution to the problem.
I have to say, I've interviewed some, top UFO experts that actually said one reason they're voting for Hillary is because they believe that she'll release the evidence of.
They said that about
extraterrestrial.
Obama, though.
I know, but that's what I mean. I've heard this out of their mouth, not on air, but off the air. So
no, I've heard some of those people too. But this is incredible that that Jim is actually reading from this memorandum that these people are actually planning this, and we may not believe it, but how many of the masses in this country, are gonna be scared, and wet their pants?
Well, the document's fascinating, Dean, too, because they go through 6 other fantastic scenarios, including an exaggerated Zika, virus epidemic. I mean, they talk about the pros and cons of these different alternatives, and it's clear they're making a serious objective assessment. I mean, it's just shocking stuff.
And Jim, in this memorandum, and correct me if I'm wrong, they polled actual women about the Trump tapes, correct? And 64% of them that viewed the tapes, they polled, surveyed thousands of women. They said 64% of them said they're not offended about what Trump allegedly said because they said that's just how men talk.
That's right. That's right. They say this is how confident men talk, and that it's no longer,
For men, it's not 64.
In fact, they go through a whole host of moves they've made and explain how they're being nullified by the alternative media, and they're no longer having impact, and they can no longer count on them.
It was women was 64%. For men, it's literally like 94 or 96%. Don't think anything of it.
It's crazy, but see, Tony, we're the enemy. We are the enemy.
Well, you specifically.
Well, me, I am public enemy number one.
That's what I tell them.
But the alternative media is the enemy to the establishment because they cannot control us. They cannot consolidate our message because you shut Truth Be Told down. You shut that music down.
Yeah.
You shut all these things down. People can make reports in their basement and just get this message out. But Jim, moving on because we're going to come up to a hard break. We have about a few minutes left. I want to get into the election fraud because this is so important, and it is so key because I know George Soros, whose name routinely comes up in my dinner table discussions, is really looking to manipulate this November 8th election. I really want to get into that. It's so important.
Well, let me give you a thumbnail sketch because anyone who thinks the election can't be rigged just hasn't been paying attention. I mean, number one, the DNC sabotaged Bernie Sanders' campaign. Debbie Wasserman Schultz had to resign as chair. Hillary's been doing the same to Trump. This Veritas undercover study has exposed it in spades. Second, Stanford has released studies showing if the primary had been honest, Bernie would have been the Democratic nominee. Frankly, I would have been supporting him today instead of Trump had he been. Third, polls are being deliberately biased to make oversampling women, liberals, Democrats, to make it come out favoring Hillary. 3 times CNN, for example, has been caught doing that.
Thank you.
Fourth, the Department of Justice whistleblower has reported that as many as 4 million dead or ineligible voters are to be found on the rolls. Jerry Brown, as you know, out in California, signed a motor voter bill that automatically registers drivers to vote. But in California, it turns out that illegal immigrants can obtain a driver's license, so he's signing them to vote, and they're not going to be voting for Donald Trump. Soros turns out to have control of a Smartmatic, which has voting machines in 16 different states, including Florida, Pennsylvania, California. I mean, it's absolutely stunning, because the Department of Homeland Security, based upon the fabricated claims of Russian hacking, appears to be taking a role in 35 other states. So the 16 includes the District of Columbia. All the bases are covered for stealing the election using electronic voting machines. The debates have all been rigged. Hillary even got the questions in advance for the first debate. I believe we discussed this previously, but she's been using a mini teleprompter on her podium and has had the questions in advance. And the fact that the media claims there's no evidence of rigging reflects that they are in on it and have lost all sense of objectivity. It's a truly stunning situation, one the founding fathers never imagined. I mean, Thomas Jefferson was once asked if he would prefer government without newspapers or newspapers without a government. And he said he'd prefer the latter, newspapers without a government, to the former. But he had no idea that the news industry could become so corrupt.
Well, listen. This stuff that you're telling us is so important to the upcoming election. Even no matter who wins, we're going to be fighting for the people of getting the truth out here on Truth Be Told, and this is why we have Jim back on as often as we can, because this man knows what he's talking about, and he does the research where a lot of us we hearsay, but we don't actually go and do the research. So, Jim, thank you so much. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a quick break so we can get our sponsor in. But when we come back, what are we gonna talk about next?
We're gonna get deeper into the election fraud, and we're gonna get into WikiLeaks. Is Julian Assange dead or alive?
Right. Where is he?
Dead,
What's going on?
dead
Right.
or alive? And I have a really great take on it, because this is all strategy. So we're going to share that. We're going to mix it up. And we are the enemies here on Truth Be Told of the power structure. So stay tuned, folks.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. Truth Be Told, Monday edition right here on Universal Broadcasting Network.
United States Pharmacopoeia, USP, sets the standard for most food supplements and are used in over 95% of all vitamin and mineral supplements in the world. The problem is that these products have never appeared in any living tissue. They're created in laboratories and are not recognizable to the body's metabolism. Grown by Nature products are different because they use renatured ingredients, proprietary blends of essential vitamins and minerals with cofactors of proteins, lipids, and complex carbohydrates. Over 50 studies have been conducted on renatured nutrients, and over 20 have been published in peer-reviewed journals proclaiming their superiority. As a result, Grown by Nature vitamins and supplements are now recognized as simply the best available. Call 877-817-9829. That's 877-817-9829 and order your Grown by Nature products today. We are what we eat, and since we are of nature, we should eat foods in their natural form. Only Grown by Nature offers a full line of renatured nutrients. Call 877-817-9829. That's 877-817-9829, because not all products are grown by nature, but they should be.
Do you suffer from anxiety, from depression, maybe even chronic pain? Well, listen up. Truth Be Told is going to tell you about a breakthrough program built on over 100 years of therapies used in America's returning veterans to help you successfully overcome PTSD, anxiety attacks, pain, and depression. The secret proven in study after study. Music therapy. The effects of music are nothing short of amazing. From strokes to PTSD, music has been shown to improve the quality of life. Now, one of the latest music therapy programs being used in America's veteran hospitals can be yours to experience for free at home and to help your own anxiety attacks, pain, and depression. Or just relax after a hard day. It's called Whole Tones. It takes music therapy to a new level. This revolutionary program makes use of specifically designed frequencies that have been shown to stimulate your body's natural healing power down to a cellular level. If it works for battle-scarred vets, can it work for you? Well, experience it for yourself for free at sweetwholetones.com. Like Tony Sweet, that's SWEET. Go to sweetwholetones.com. Now enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Truth Be Told on a very special episode having everything to do with the election and WikiLeaks. And Tony, in case the audience doesn't know, Barack Obama's in town today, and the traffic jam is out of control. He's wreaking havoc across L.A. Filed a special report on it earlier. But I got to tell you, Tony, the rumors are true. I was in the hallway and actually ran into Barack Obama, and he tried to sell me an 8-ball.
Wow.
So, I mean, I guess truth be told in the hallways. Anyways, but getting back to Professor James Fetzer, calling in from Wisconsin, we were talking about the George Soros election fraud and the memorandum earlier. But transitioning into the next phase here of this great episode, Jim, I want to talk about all the rumors of Julian Assange being dead, Julian Assange being alive, Julian Assange, disintegrating by aliens.
They're calling for proof. They're calling, the people are tweeting that we want proof that he's alive.
Right. So, Jim, where do we stand at this point on the fate of whistleblower WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange?
Well, I hate to say so, but would not surprise me if he were in fact dead. The fact is, people who piss off Hillary Clinton have a rather abbreviated life expectancy. We previously lost the attorney to Julian Assange, who wound up in front of a subway train in London.
There it is.
We've lost the fellow who is the IT for the Democratic National Committee, who appears to have given Seth Rich, who given the documents about the Bernie sabotage to Assange. He's dead too. The attorney who served the class action lawsuit on the DNC, he's dead too. In fact, it just turns out, this is very recent, that the doctor who treated Hillary for her concussion back in 2012, which may or may not have been the result of a secret flight where the plane actually crashed, he's dead too. So that if Julian Assange were taken out, frankly, it would not surprise me.
Hey, Jim, what about, didn't the director of WikiLeaks, Gavin McFadden, just die?
Yes. Kevin McFadden has just died too.
And that seems like a little mysterious.
Yeah, he was 76. The cause of death so far is unknown, but obviously that would be suspicious as well, except 76. Right? I'll be 76 this year myself. And we just don't know what to say there. He seems like a really good guy. He certainly would be a target for a Hillary-style hit. You may or may not have picked up when they arrested this guy who was using the identity of a deceased FBI agent in Trump Tower. He had a weapon with no serial number, meaning manufactured with no serial number. In other words, specifically for assassins and a professional quality silencer. He was apprehended, but I have no doubt that was an attempted hit on Trump, just as this fellow who was climbing the walls of the Ecuadorian embassy in London wasn't there to deliver a corsage to Assange.
A vegan meal. Oh, that was Pam Anderson. That's right.
Wow.
That was peculiar, too.
What was that about, Jim?
Yeah.
Do you have
Pam
any insight on
Anderson
that?
doing there
It's
for
called
crying out
conjugal
loud.
visits.
We can't figure out what that's for. Was that real? What is that? Do you know anything?
It was supposed to have been real, but the last time I saw Pam Anderson, she was dilly-dallying with Tommy Lee on a boat.
Oh, my God.
Dilly-dallying, huh? Watch them out there, Jim. This is a family show. But it just seemed very odd. It just doesn't even make any sense that she'd even be there, let alone go there to deliver a meal.
I
It's just,
bizarre. I mean, it's
so
so
bizarre.
anomalous. What in the world?
Well, it's weird, too, because she could have been a honeypot in that same night, Jim, when she delivered the infamous meal. You had Podesta tweeting at Assange, and he's in the kitchen saying, Dear Julian, it looks like my dinner here at my house is going to be a lot better than your dinner in the Ecuadorian embassy. I mean, what a creep.
He did.
Well,
say
that's
that?
very. It's interesting you point that out, Dean, because remember we also have these email links where 3 days before Scalia is taken out, he's tweeting about it sounds like it's going to be a bad night there, and somebody says they thought wet works, didn't wet work didn't mean pool party, and of course that's a term for assassinations because you get brains and blood splattered, right. So it's called wet work in the craft of spycraft and assassination. So that is very peculiar, and Chelsea was boasting how now that Scalia's dead, we can get gun control laws through. So he would be a major target on her list, too. And notice how many of these disappear. I mean, the ill fate, there's a list of at least 50, it may be closer to 100 by now, people who crossed paths with the Clintons who had information they didn't want them to possess or reveal and have died odd deaths. I mean, there's a whole lot of them.
I mean, could that just be coincidence, Tony? I mean, you believe in coincidences, right?
Oh, always.
I mean, yeah, there's piles and piles of dead bodies around the Clintons, but hey, that happens with a lot of couples, right?
How many are around you?
I mean, but moving on, Jim, because we're getting down to the wire, and I said
2 weeks,
2 weeks, and I've said to all these guys here and to you, Jim, off air, is I really think it is up to the alternative media, the true enemy of the Clinton clandestine and the power structure, to really point out the murderous war crimes of these elites. And it's really up to us because, let's face it, Donald Trump was kind of pulling punches on these debates, and, I don't know what the hell was going on. But with that said, what can we expect in these next batch of WikiLeaks? I'm hearing war crimes of Obama and Clinton playing patty cake together while they're dropping drone bombs on the Arabs. That's all going to come out.
They apparently have something big on Tim Kaine they're about to drop too. And of course, she picked him because he was supporter of the TPP, is in bed with Wall Street just as Hillary is. The TPP is really one of the mega issues of this campaign and hasn't been getting nearly enough attention because not only is the TPP NAFTA on steroids, further gutting the manufacturing and industrial base of the United States, but it creates a board of international attorneys who have the right to override the laws and statutes of any of the 14 Pacific Rim countries, thereby subsumed, including the Constitution of the United States. So with the TPP, we are no longer a sovereign nation. We are controlled by a corporate board. This is really, truly corporations ruling the world, which is what the New World Order is all about. And when Hillary Clinton talks about her being in favor of open borders and open trade, she really means it. She's all for the globalism, where national states no longer reign, where you don't have significant boundaries. That was one of the effects of the European Union, of course, was it created a situation where once you entered the Union, you could travel anywhere to any of the partners in the Union without having any special passport, whatever. They adopted the common currency. This makes it for bankers easier. You don't have to do exchanges of money in different units and all that. I mean, all this seems to be to just extend a Rothschild's empire worldwide and nail it down. And Hillary is the Rothschild's candidate. So, I think that's what we're up against because they have so much control of the news. You can't get a straight answer to anything. And since the Obama nullified the Smith-Mudd Act of 1948, when he signed the National Defense Appropriations Act of 2013, it's now perfectly legal for American newspapers, television, radio to promote propaganda within the United States, which had heretofore been prohibited by that very act. So they've had a bonanza. They're going wild. They're telling us anything they want, and it's perfectly within the boundaries of the law as it stands today.
Professor, I want to ask you this because you said we don't get a straight answer. Why can't we just get a straight answer from WikiLeaks and just say, here's the damning emails, get it over with? So, I mean, if it was a month ago, 2 months ago, if it's that damning, it's going to destroy the whole balance in the election. So why not just released it? So tell me, why wait 2 weeks?
They appear to have had a revision of how they were going to do it, that they were going to have this monster data dump, about 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And everyone stayed up late at night, early in the morning. I was even down here at my computer at 4:30 in the morning to see what was going to happen. And then it fizzled out because it appears to me they decided dropping it in smaller batches continuously right up to the campaign was going to be more effective than a massive data dump that might take, a huge amount of time to sort out. But I'm very, very troubled, that Julian Assange, I mean, this guy, like Edward Snowden, is doing his best to inform the American people of what's actually going on in the world. And the idea he should be demonized or that Snowden should be assailed, I mean, these are heroes, not just to the American people, but to the whole world, because they're revealing the reality behind the illusion.
Well, Jim, let me just cut you in real quick. I mean, releasing a whole dump of these emails like 2 months ago, doesn't that give enough time for the DNC or the establishment to replace Hillary? I mean, they want to nail this woman. They want her indicted because this woman wants to kill Julian Assange. This administration has put more journalists, whistleblowers into jail more than any other administrations combined. They have more than enough reasons to do this strategically the way they're doing it, number one. And I think number two, if they know, if Julian Assange is really trying to save his life to see his kids, as he said, isn't it in his best interest to do it strategically where maybe he's dead, maybe he's alive, maybe he can escape like a Machiavelli, and maybe he's holding on to something even bigger they don't know about. So isn't it in his best interest to kind of play this elite like he's playing Bobby Fischer at chess?
Well, that's an interesting suggestion, Dean. I mean, they have such a mass of data. It turns out, of course, that the NSA has all of Hillary's emails. The FBI could have had it simply by asking. And the fact that the director of the FBI and the attorney general have turned out to be corrupt has been causing great consternation in the FBI. About half of the agents are ready to dump the agency if he's not replaced. I mean, this is not going to go away anytime soon, and it's even getting more and more serious. We even have the prospect a military. A leaked military drill anticipates no rule of law after the election. According to an unnamed source who has provided accurate intel in the past, an unannounced military drill is scheduled to take place during a period leading up to the election. Throughout the month thereafter, it appears the system is gearing up to handle outbreaks of violence, chaotic rallies and poll stations, and the possibility the people of the United States will become very dissatisfied with the outcome and deal with it by using military force and martial law. I don't think that's improbable at all. I mean, when you see the huge amount of enthusiasm for Donald Trump illustrated, for example, Hillary might be able to pull 150 to a rally in Florida. Trump's pulling 15,000, and you got another 10 waiting to get in. I mean, the people really care about Trump. And look at the results of this Benenson research effort themselves. They say Hillary's on the trail to lose by 77 for Trump to 19 for Hillary. I mean, that's just devastating. She is a nasty piece of work. The Donald spoke the truth when he said she's a nasty woman. She's nasty. About as nasty as they come. And I'm not just alluding to her bisexuality and the fact that she's in this relationship with Huma Abedin from Saudi Arabia, who appears to be her handler, but a whole lot more.
Oh, wow. My God. Wow. I'm getting a little sick to my stomach, Ron.
Professor, I was going to ask you this question. You were talking about Assange here. Do you think if Clinton gets elected that she will extradite him?
Yeah, she'll put pressure on Ecuador. Ecuador somehow gave half of its gold reserves. I mean, it was a fairly staggering amount, something like 41 tons, to the Fed. What was this? Another scam? And so that they've got a great deal of pressure on Ecuador. It's a small country. It could be bombed to oblivion. We've done this to other countries. John Kerry could say, look, what happened to Libya? You don't want that to happen to Ecuador? I mean, the manipulativeness of the American government is just verges on the obscene. And the fact is that we have lost our way. We, instead of being the most admired and respected nation of the world, we're now the most reviled and despised. And it's a transformation because of the influence that Israel has exerted over the United States in bringing about 9/11 and getting us engaged in all these wars in the Middle East to take out the modern Arab states that served as a counterbalance to Israel's domination of the entire region. ISIS was created by Obama and Hillary. Here again, Trump was exactly right on the mark. I published on this. I gave a presentation at the Left Forum already earlier this year with 20 slides demonstrating the evidence that Judicial Watch was able to obtain documents under the Freedom of Information Act from the Defense Intelligence Agency, creating ISIS in 2012 to put more pressure on Assad and to allow for the expansion of Israel into the greater Israel from the Tigris Euphrates to the Nile of Zionist aspirations. All of this is incredibly murky, mucky, nasty stuff, and we're, they control the influence of the American-Israeli Political Action Committee. They call themselves Public Affairs Committee. Has just been astounding. Cynthia McKinney, not that long ago, revealed that when a new member of Congress comes to Washington, they're asked to sign a pledge to put the interests of Israel ahead of those of the United States. And those who don't sign find themselves confronted with a well-financed alternative candidate next time around, or even that their district has been redrawn, circumstances permitting. So she was heroic to reveal that, just as Snowden to reveal, the massive surveillance in the face of having the highest intelligence officials lie to the Congress and to the American people.
Jim, you're absolutely right. I know Cynthia McKinney personally. And she is such a warrior spirit, and she has really called out people like Elizabeth Warren for doing exactly what you just mentioned. Today, she just called out Michael Moore for endorsing Hillary Clinton, and she is truly a trailblazer on so many levels. I mean, we love Cynthia McKinney over here, but Tony, I'm a little scared to be in this country now. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we're on the verge of World War III. We're on the verge of a civil war. We're in L.A. That's scary enough. I mean,
they called out Michael Moore for going for Hillary Clinton. Was this a big shock to somebody?
Cynthia McKinney
was shocked by this.
She called him a Democratic shill because he claims to be a man of truth. And the thing with 9/11 Fahrenheit, it really just made it said, okay, Bush is just a buffoon. It didn't really go deep. And stuff like that. But here's one thing, Jim, and I want to get your take on it, and then I know Tony's got something to say, is with these characters like, and I'm just going to be objective and be fair, with the characters like Julian Assange and Edward Snowden, one thing that I've always noticed, and they've never talked about, and which is why I kind of think they are kind of intelligence assets, is the characters like them, they never, ever touch the 9/11 story, whether it's fabricated or anything about it. And I kind of wanted to get your take on it because I know you're a big 9/11 researcher, but that's kind of what I've always noticed, and some other people as well. Can you speak on that?
Well, I think they feel they have areas of competence. I mean, Edward Snowden worked for the NSA. I mean, he knew whereof he spoke. He wasn't an independent student of 9/11. Similarly for Julian Assange, I mean, I think they're doing unbelievably good work in exposing all of this hypocrisy and corruption, giving us lifting the veil so we can see the man behind the curtain. I have nothing but applause for them. I want to add one more point that's particularly relevant for your program and its title. Obama wants to introduce truth tests for the media so that you sort out the stories that have no basis in the eyes of the government from those that are worthy of consumption. And this is as Orwellian as it gets. If what you're saying agrees with the official government narrative or what Obama thinks or even Hillary, then it's okay. And if it doesn't, it's not, and they're going to call it out. I have no doubt this is coming. They have felt so threatened by the internet, by the alternative media for so long. They want to do something decisive about it. But it has nothing to do with truth. It has everything to do with propaganda.
Wow. Well, we just have a few minutes left. In the 2 weeks, we've heard this before, and I've heard that Obama potentially, and I think you brought this up, Dean, potentially might do a martial law. He could do. I want to, because I have an unrest in martial law, and this is something that you provided us, and I want to ask your take on that. Leaked military drill, no rule of law. Will you talk about that before we get out of here?
Absolutely. Well, see, They're talking about public disruption because the election, they're not saying this, but this is what they're talking about, because people know the election is rigged and it wasn't a fair outcome, that there could be a tremendous public outbursts, displays of unhappiness, chaotic rallies, who knows where it might lead, and that they would use that occasion as a rationale for imposing martial law. Keeping Obama in, I think, frankly, he would like to remain as dictator of the United States. But then Hillary, you'd have to deal with Hillary. I mean, it's very much like a British palace plots and skullduggery, against the plots against the kings and queens. These were endemic in history. Shakespeare immortalized them. We have something like that, it seems to me, playing out here. Obama has proven to be massively corrupt. I've been absolutely dumbfounded. I voted for the man twice. And I regard it today as a colossal mistake, except that when you look at the alternatives, there we didn't have really viable alternatives, like when I voted for Bill Clinton twice. But today I think that Donald Trump is the only one who actually offers the promise of a salvation. There's a stunning story we didn't explore about Hillary going ballistic after the Commander-in-Chief Forum. When Matt Lair asked her a question of which she was unaware, in other words, she knew all the other questions were vetted, she'd known about them in advance, but he asked her one about her emails, and she was furious. The NBC crew said you could see her coming to a boil, that when she got off, she took a glass of water, threw it in the face of one of her assistants. They said you never heard such a string of profanities, that she was the most obscene woman they'd ever seen. She even insulted Donna Brazile, who'd actually provided her with one of the questions, and said, how she hated to look at her, that she looked like a dead buffalo. I mean, it was just appalling. And I say, if you want to get an insight into Hillary Clinton, you got to find this. Bill Still put it up, and it's had over 1 million hits. Because here you're getting the unvarnished Hillary Clinton. And frankly, it shook the NBC crew. I mean, they were really, truly appalled and all agreed that, this woman is just not fit to be president of the United States.
Is that on tape?
Yeah.
They have that audio.
Not all her whole outburst. What's on tape is the report of the members of the crew who were working the scene afterward. But they said she was so loud about it and so abusive, she didn't care who heard it.
And Jim, too, just to add, she might not even be fit physically to be president because she has Parkinson's, or is, in my theory, is syphilis, like her loving husband, William.
Well, I've, of course, published a great deal about her health and her use of doubles in the brand new book, From Orlando to Dallas and Beyond, which I'm pleased to say we've just put out in a color edition. So this is the first of our books that you can find in a color edition for just $10 more. Hillary's obscene range after the Commander-in-Chief Forum with Matt Lauer. Check out SR 1271. That's the Bill Still Report, the Still Report 1271. NBC crew, Crooked Hillary's massive meltdown at September 7th Forum. I mean, this is so appalling. It's unbelievable. Here's a quote from one of the crew. You really had to see this to believe it. She came apart literally unglued. She is the most foul-mouthed woman I've ever heard. And that voice at screech level. Here's what she said of Donna Brazile. I'm so sick of your face. You stare at the wall like a brain-dead buffalo while letting that effing Lauer get away with this. She said if he wins the election because of this, referring to Trump, we're all going to be put in a noose. She has made statements of exactly that kind, which I find incredibly revealing. And if she actually were in this massive lead, if she really had control, as the media is reporting, which I regard as an elaborate psyop, she wouldn't have any basis for saying that at all. It's because she's worried that, in fact, she's on the verge of losing, just as the Benenson report claimed, which is real inside information. And as I have said now several times, appears to be authentic.
Well, Jim, again, you deliver the goods on this show because
Always.
I got to tell you, Hillary Clinton, she makes me physically ill because when I see evil, when I see pure evil, wickedness, and dark demonic shadows in people, I think of Hillary Clinton. So when I think of the devil, I think of her. When I think of Hillary Clinton, I think of the devil. And this woman is so demonic, and she wants to take people like us down. She wants to take true media down, and she's trying to do it with her fake PR mainstream media, she's going to get a fight. If they think the alternative media is just going to sit down and take it, they're highly mistaken, because we're not a consolidated, centralized bullcrap media like CNN, the CNN building down the street. We're not going to sit it down and take that. So I'm glad we're having you on, and the closer we get, we'll do some more special reports, and people can follow you. You're all over the internet, and I know you got some amazing books, and so thank you.
Well, I think
again.
what you guys are doing is simply terrific, and I think it's having an impact. I'm very, very glad to be joining you for these sessions.
Of course. Well,
Thank
you're part of Truth Be Told now, so you've really helped boost us and boost our energy for what's coming up.
Jim Fetzer is the Lou Grant of the
there
Truth Be
you go.
Told news team. So
I'll be the Betty White. Wait a minute. Just kidding.
well, you are. But thank you, Jim, again for joining us. Let's talk off air, and Captain Ron.
You got it. Dean, Tony,
God bless
Captain, thank you all three.
All of us.
You got it. You got it.
Well, guys.
Hey, let me remind folks tonight. And I would never recommend to watch Fox News, but I am going to today. Tonight they say on Hannity, Sean Hannity tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern time, he's got a guy on called Mr. Fix-It, and they're going to reveal his identity. And he wrote a report in the National Enquirer yesterday that has all these explosive confessions about he was the fix-it man for the Clintons, and he talks about like Lewinsky and how he set up hookers for Bill.
Like Mr. Wolf from Pulp Fiction.
Just like that. That's exactly what it is. Mr.
Right.
Wolf from Pulp Fiction.
Mr. Wolf.
And supposedly he's going to be on Hannity tonight revealing himself and revealing all of these things he fixed for the Clintons. Believe it or not.
No, that's going to be an awesome program, and that's going
Check
to be
it
on
out
Fox
tonight.
tonight. And then
10 o'clock tonight on Eastern.
Hey, if anyone wants to catch me, a little shameless plug for myself, I'll be at USC this Friday, the 28th, doing something for an event with a guest, Adam Kokesh.
Adam, yeah.
Awesome. I'll be introducing him on stage.
Maybe you can do a
speech.
special report from there.
Oh, I probably will.
Before you drink.
Yeah, do it nice and early, Dean.
You're assuming I drink. I don't know what this guy assumes I have a problem. Wait a minute, this is an intervention, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Well,
Lock
right.
the door.
So I'll be there.
Come out and see Dean, folks.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
check it out. I'll be at USC this Friday all night, and we're going to hang out. Come and meet us. Come and meet me. And,
Perfect.
Yeah, so.
Well, another broadcast under the belt, and we really appreciate you guys. We want you to go to our website, truthbetoldwebtv.com. Check out our YouTube channel, subscribe, leave a comment. Check us out on iHeart Radio, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spreaker, all those places. You can't go anywhere without finding us somewhere. But we appreciate you guys tuning in every week. We'll see you next time right here on Truth Be Told. Take care.